Luckily, we got here with no snow, and for the most part, roads are clear. I'm Dave Alexander. I'm honored and pleased to be your president this year. And the music for today was... Okay, that's the artist. What's the name of the song? Oh, anybody? It's off of, yes, the Charlie Brown Christmas by Schultz. But what's the name of the song? Linus and Lucy. There we go. There's one. 1964 by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. It was first called Jazz Impressions of a Boy Named Charlie Brown. Now, for you younger persons in this audience, that was a comic strip called Peanuts by Charles Schultz. And by 1965, the song was used on the Charlie Brown Christmas, both on the album and on the TV show. And if you haven't seen it, it is a must-watch. That's all I got to say. Today's program is going to be on the Ennis Water Resources Institute. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Emily Morgenstern will provide the reflection. At the end, we'll do the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Emily.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy December. And 'tis the season of work deadlines, holiday parties, Christmas concerts, volunteering, shopping, wrapping, cooking, cleaning, decorating, hosting, visiting, and more holiday parties. This is supposed to be a time of gratitude, peace, and joy. Yet this time of year can be very overwhelming. Busy schedules, missing loved ones, and terrible weather. There are a lot of distractions that keep us from being connected, practicing gratitude and generosity, and experiencing joy. To help ease some of the holiday stress, I encourage you to try carving out small moments that genuinely bring you joy. Maybe that's taking time to pray or reflect, curling up with a cheesy Hallmark movie, or treating yourself to a quiet coffee date. Whatever it looks like for you, make space for the things that refill your cup so you can show up feeling grounded, present, and ready to enjoy the season with the people around you.
Good words on this frosty December afternoon. Please take your seats. We will be back to you at your lunch, networking and mingling. We will not have a Muskegon Minute today, but we will get into the bylaws which are on your table. He's got the mic, and we'll guide you to center stage. There's at least 4 or 5 of you out there, according to my list. There's. All right, take a good swallow and, compose. Okay, all right, okay.
Hi, I'm Susan Besteman. You might see my RIM emails. And this is my guest, Nick Van Voorst. He's the mortgage loan officer at Northern Mortgage. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rob Taylor, and my guest again this week is David Straight. I think I told you last week that I met him biking, and we biked Tuesday night. It was rather challenging. Only 3 people fell, but we survived. So I, he's a little crazy, kind of like some of us around here, and I think he'd fit real well in the club. And considering our crazy leadership, where is he? Dave missed that. Anyway, he's going to orientation next week to see if he really fits with all of us. So.
Hi, I'm Dr. Emma Schroeder, and this is my guest today, Andrea Yost. She is the eco art teacher at Muskegon Montessori for Environmental Change, and she is also the advisor that I work with the Early Act Club that we just started this year. And so with the school's focus on environmental issues, she was very interested in coming and listening to what the topic was today. So.
Speaking of a furry nut,
Hi, everybody. Buckeye Bill Loxterman here. I'm pleased again this week to introduce Chris Nance. Last week, he was the mayor-elect of North Muskegon. This week, he's been on the job for 4 whole days. So I got his application filled out right here.
Hello, Rotary. Marty Seitzma here with our student guest, and here's your chance to use your outdoor voices. Because Oak Ridge is in the house. To introduce two of the seniors is Kurt Kiesken. He is one of the counselors at the school.
So with me, I have Savannah and Olivia, and they're in our top 10 academically this year so far. So pleased to have them representing Oak Ridge.
My name is Savannah. I'm a senior at Oak Ridge. I participate in National Honor Society, National Arts Honor Society, and Link Crew. And next year, I plan to go to MCC with the promise to major in marketing and to also get my nail technician license.
My name is Olivia, and I'm also a senior at Oak Ridge. I participate in the National Honors Art Society, and I also plan to attend MCC with the promise. And then I plan to transfer to Western to
Go Broncos.
art education.
welcome students and guests. We're going to forego the Muskegon Minute today. If you have your phones, you can pull them out, please. There are some emails that have been sent to you if you want to take a look at any of the information concerning the bylaw amendments that we are going to now take up. Muskegon Rotary Club Board of Directors has presented the membership with bylaw amendments allowing for the option of a co-presidency. The amendment language is on your tables. Several copies have been passed around. Notification of this membership vote was made at 2 past meetings. Emails of the same were sent out November 17 and December 1, and there was notification in the RIM. I provided the membership with an email yesterday, December 3rd, on the reasons and the rationale for the change. Briefly, this allows for the option, I'll underline that word option, of 2 co-presidents in any Rotary year. They will both move through the progression of president, nominee, president-elect, president, and past president. Each co-president will be a member of the club's board of directors, and through the presidential progression, each will have an individual vote on the board. Sharing of presidential duties will be determined by the co-presidents between themselves, and that would be subject to the approval of the club board of directors, and any disagreements shall be resolved by the club board of directors. If we have 14 members or an even number at that time because of an added member to the board, and there's a tie vote, immediate past president will break the tie. With that, Muskegon is known for its innovative and visionary leadership. Community Foundation for Muskegon County presents the Patricia B. Johnson Community Leadership Award each year to honor such attributes. In the spirit of the late Pat Johnson, longtime Rotarian and Foundation president, I ask the Muskegon Rotary Club members to approve our bylaw amendments allowing for an option of co-presidents. I would ask President-elect Roger for a motion.
I will move that we adopt the club bylaw changes as presented to the membership.
I would look at immediate past President Tim Arter for a second. Okay, Emily. Oh yeah. Can you hang, or can somebody hang on to a mic right at midpoint? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were, yeah, I know, we got that. Just, you got to go down and see Andrew. Got right in the middle. Everyone's got 1 minute for a comment or a question. And I'd like to have Roger as motion maker, Tim as second to lead us off. 1 minute, sir.
No, I made the motion. This is something that we've looked at. This was actually discussed at the PELS, which is the President's-elect training that we had in Kalamazoo last year, was actually brought to us by the RI President-elect. He said, you need to have these options in your clubs, especially for busy members. And we also heard about it at Calgary this summer at the International Convention. It is something other clubs are doing, and RI does say you need to have a bylaw change to make it work. And so we want it in the bylaws, as President Dave said, as an option. Doesn't mean we'll have it every year, but that way, if we do, we've got the structure in place. So, thank you. Yep.
Well, as you know, I'm the immediate past president and have the experience of serving in that capacity. As many of you think, it takes quite a bit of time, and so it's pretty intimidating for some people. I believe that many talented members who would be considered for prospective president by a future nominating committee would be unwilling to commit to the time and energy of the president's responsibilities. And I fully support this amendment because it'll give people the option of serving as co-president when they would otherwise not be able to fulfill that particular role. So, as was mentioned, this is an option. It doesn't have to be used every year. It's not mandatory, and I think that gives the club, the board of directors, and nominating committees a versatility or the opportunity to bring strong members forward to the presidency, and so for that reason, I think it'll work well for us.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions or comments? You got a minute? Question or comment? You've got a minute.
Hi, Samantha Scott, Preferred Supports, and my question is, how will it be determined year to year whether or not there will be a co-presidency? Is that going to be up to the nominee to ask for that?
Okay,
Will that
so
be
here's the situation. It's going to be up to you guys. Who's going to step forward to be president? That is not an easy task to find someone to step into these roles. So I applaud all of you who have been and all of you that are in the succession line right now, and those who would contemplate it going into the future. It'll be the nominating committee to the board to the membership for a vote. My guess would be that, my hope would be that we would let this allow to be a 4-year experiment, and we have 2 co-presidents that will be before you from the slate of officers that we'll vote on next week. Any other comments or questions? Comments or questions? Marcia?
One advantage I see is that people who go away for the winter could be president, so it would give more flexibility. I live in a place where half of our residents are gone for the winter, so it's kind of abundantly clear. And I'm trying to think, I had another reason. Oh, a question. Does the person who's the co-president step in line for ascension up to president?
Yes, they will be co-presidents as president nominee, president-elect, president, and past president. And if one of them should, and there was a question asked, if one of them should not be able to fulfill those, it would be up to the board then to appoint a new co-president, or that co-president may just want to go on as a single president going through that succession.
Okay.
And then that would come back the next annual meeting for a ratification vote of the members.
Thank you.
Any others? Hearing none, we're going to take a voice vote. So, with the motion being approval of the 2 amendments to our bylaws allowing for co-presidents on your desk, All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, approved. Thank you to the nominating committee, our board of directors, our past presidents, and member Scott Timmer, who is also an attorney who helped us through some of the language that not only we did on this one, but obviously when we redid our bylaws just recently. And we'll be doing our bylaws again for the foundation going forward, so more of that to come. As I said, officers and directors, there will be a co-director on the slate, will be voted on at the annual meeting next Thursday, December 11th. With that, Melissa Horton has the introduction of our program.
Hello, it is my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Stuart Jones as our guest speaker today from the Annis Water Resources Institute. Dr. Stuart Jones is an ecologist who seeks to understand how human interventions impact the physical, chemical, and biological interactions occurring in lakes. His work extends our fundamental understanding of aquatic ecosystems and addresses the environmental challenges that plague freshwaters globally. Dr. Jones and the members of his lab make use of long-term observations, comparative surveys, whole ecosystem experiments, and mathematical models to understand what regulates the water quality and food web productivity, improve the management of recreational fisheries, and identify climate feedbacks mediated by lakes. Dr. Jones earned his PhD in limnology and marine sciences at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, followed by a postdoctoral research position at Michigan State University's W.K. Kellogg Biological Station. After 14 years on the faculty of the biological sciences at the University of Notre Dame, he joined the Annis Water Resources Institute at Grand Valley State University in Muskegon, Michigan, as their new executive director in January 2025. Please help me welcome Dr. Stuart Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was given strict instructions to stay right here, but I tend to be a wanderer when I speak, so if you can't hear me or if I get out of line, somebody just holler at me. Can you start the slides, please, Mike? It's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks for the invitation, Melissa, and for the kind introduction. As Melissa said, I'm the new director as of January at the Annis Water Resources Institute, coming to you from the University of Notre Dame, coming to Annis Water Resources from there. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Annis Water Resource Institute. I think there are some folks who have been here for the history of AWRI in Muskegon, and then other folks who maybe haven't heard much or anything about AWRI, so I want to give you a little bit of background on the Institute. And then I'm going to talk about life after delisting. And there's a lot of folks in the room who might know a lot about that. Dave, for example, knows a whole lot about that. He's played a key role in that, and others in the room that I see have as well. There might be others of you that don't know what the heck I'm talking about when I say delisting. So I'll talk a little bit about what the list is and why we're delisted, and that's a good thing. And then I'll finally get to the point of talking about life after delisting, both for the Institute and for Muskegon Lake. And feel free to jump in if you have any questions at any point. I spend some of my time as a teacher in the classroom, and so I'm used to interruptions and questions. So I'll start with what is AWRI, the Annis Water Resources Institute. Whoops, I did the wrong direction. I was warned about that. So AWRI is a department in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Grand Valley State University. So just like the biology department or the chemistry department, we're another unit in that college. It's right there in our name, Water Resources. We focus on freshwater resources. That's our mission, the major component of our mission. And then we have three sort of pillars around water resources. We're focused on research, education, and outreach or community engagement. We're down the shore, 2 or 3 blocks, depending on how you count them, to the west from right where we're sitting here. If you walk just past the LST, we'll be right there. If you get to Heritage Landing, we've gone too far. We're right in between those two. And we're really blessed to have some lakefront property on Muskegon Lake because we're pursuing research in aquatic ecology, but also it's this tremendous great way to the Great Lakes, to Lake Michigan, as you can see the channel there in this aerial photo. Thanks to the generosity of folks in Muskegon, we have a 2.5-acre property there on the lake. We have 3 buildings there, the Lake Michigan Center, a field station, and a boathouse. In total, it's about 50,000 square feet. We have 12 GVSU faculty that are based there full-time. We have about 50 staff. Those staff do everything from work with school-age children in educational activities, support boat activities, fix broken outboard motors, things like that. And then we have technicians that are working in the labs doing the aquatic research. We have somewhere between 10 and 15 graduate students at the Institute at any given time pursuing a master's degree through the Grand Valley State Biology Master's Program. And then across the year, we have somewhere between 20 and 30, 2 dozen and 3 dozen undergraduate students that engage with us here in Muskegon at the Institute as well. A lot of those are around in the summer. We have a lot of truck and boat traffic in and out of our space every day in the summer. Most of that is funded internships through the summer, and again, a lot of that is supported by generosity of folks in West Michigan and Muskegon specifically. You'll hear that as a theme across my presentation today, is that local generosity. One other unique piece of our institute is that we have 2 fairly large vessels that we make use of, both for doing, both as research platforms in Muskegon Lake and Lake Michigan, but their primary use is outreach and educational activities that I'll tell you a little bit about later. So that's the basic sort of nuts and bolts of the Institute here in Muskegon. I'll jump to this question of what is delisting and what is the list. So in the late 80s, there was a joint commission between Canada and the United States, and they joined in something called the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, and they identified 43 physical locations across the Great Lakes region that had significant environmental degradation from past human activities. 30 some of those were in the United States, 14 of those AOC, or areas of concern where we have this significant environmental degradation, are in Michigan. That's not to disparage Michigan at all. I think a lot of why we have the most, almost half of the U.S. sites, is because we have the most Great Lakes shoreline of any other state, and that's a good thing, right? We're proud of our Great Lakes. But the number of sites here in Michigan and across the Great Lakes also reflects the past industrial activity and development by humans. And again, I'm not here to say that that was good or bad. I actually think we should be proud of the industrial development and economic development that's happened in our region. There just have been some environmental byproducts of those activities. And so, for example, here in Muskegon, there was early heavy logging industry that we see evidence of even today across the lake and around the lake and across the watershed of the Muskegon River. That gave way to other industrial development, which again fueled development of the Midwest and of the United States as a whole, and that's a good thing. There's great displays at the museums downtown about that industrial development and all the positives that it did for the region and the community. But it left us with some environmental degradation, and that's why Muskegon Lake was identified as one of these areas of concern. The commission that put that water quality agreement together for the Great Lakes used something called beneficial use impairments. So impairment of something that could be a good use of the water resources in the Great Lakes, or BUIs, these beneficial use impairments. Muskegon, there are 14 possible BUIs, and we did a good job. We had 9 of the 14. And you can see here the list of the 9 that were impaired, the beneficial uses that were impaired in Muskegon Lakes specifically. We had contaminants and pollutants in the lake that made their way into fish and other wildlife, such that there were consumption advisories. Governing agencies like the EPA said, hey, it's probably not a good idea to eat fish out of Muskegon Lake at that time in the late 80s when these AOCs were identified. Other things like habitat loss. A big problem in Muskegon Lake was the sediments were fairly heavily polluted, and there was a lot of work to remove those polluted sediments. Other things like shoreline hardening, lots of concrete and metal rather than wetlands and mud and grasses and that sort of thing. Just general aesthetics of the shoreline, groundwater contamination. And another one that I'll hit on a fair bit is the eutrophication or overabundance of algae growing in the lake. So we were confronted with these challenges, these existing issues with the area of concern here in Muskegon Lake. I say that as a challenge because folks worked very hard to undo those impairments or remove those impairments so that folks could make beneficial use of the ecosystem. I could probably try to spend an hour talking about that process of going from identified as an AOC in the late 80s until sort of at least a comma, maybe a period in that story that happened just this past September. I'm not going to do that. We don't have an hour today. I would probably do a pretty bad job at that because, like Melissa said, I just showed up 11 months ago or something. There are other folks, Dave, Kathy Evans, folks at Wimserdick, all kinds of folks in the community, the region, the state that worked for decades. And tens of millions of dollars went into this delisting remediation effort on Muskegon Lake. And I get to come in right at the end and declare victory, which is great. I'm happy to do that, but I want to make sure that you hear stories and talk to folks in the community about all the work that went into it. But like I said, federal agencies, EPA, NOAA were involved, state agencies, EGLE, and the predecessors of EGLE in the state, local groups like Wimserdick and the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership, who are still all active and working on environmental problems today, but they played a huge role over decades in getting towards this delisting. Grand Valley State played a small role in that. My predecessors at Grand Valley State did. And their primary role was monitoring and measuring and documenting whether we have removed those impairments of those beneficial uses. So one example of some things that GVSU and the Annis Water Resources Institute measured about the lake was chlorophyll. So plants, you probably learned in elementary school or middle school, plants use chlorophyll to capture sunlight to make energy and live. Algae, microscopic plants that live in the lake, also have chlorophyll. We as scientists come along and scoop those algae up and measure how much chlorophyll is in the water, and that's how we know how much algae is in a lake. And so we have data that predates AWRI's presence here in Muskegon from the 70s. I think that's from either state or federal agencies making measurements, and there was 25 units of chlorophyll on average in Muskegon Lake at that time. Time passes, efforts to clean up the lake were made, including changes to wastewater treatment facilities and the way that wastewater was handled, and we see a dramatic reduction, less than half of that algae concentration throughout the 2000s when GVSU and AWRI were doing their monitoring. So that's one example of where we took that overabundance of algae limitation of the lake or impact on the lake and made some changes that had and remove that impairment. Another example was some large grants and work to restore shoreline. And you can see the before and after pictures here. GVSU monitored and measured some of that stuff and documented ecological implications of that shoreline restoration, but also human dimensions impacts as well. So we saw and measured increases in property values as a result of that shoreline restoration. We saw an increased willingness and interest in folks traveling to Muskegon to make use of the lake when these impairments of beneficial uses were removed. And so in the end, the outcome, the delisting is that as of September, the end of September this year, Muskegon Lake is no longer an area of concern. It's delisted, it's taken off of that AOC list because those impairments have been removed because of all that work by others. And we hope that that has a positive impact on folks living in Muskegon, folks visiting Muskegon, and so on. So, what happens now, life after delisting? And I want to take this opportunity to share sort of what I think is to come for the lake, and also what's to come now that I'm in charge of the Annis Water Resources Institute. The steady hand of Al Steinman he's moved on, he's headed towards retirement, he's still around doing research, but I've got to take over and try to fill his shoes. So I'll give you a little bit of what's next after delisting for both the lake and the Institute. I started with our mission and these sort of three pillars of AWRI, community engagement, education, and research, and that's not going to change. That would never change. Those are still our focus. That's where we put our attention. And so I'll give you a little bit of a story about what's going on in each of these areas and a little bit of a view of what might come in the future and how that dovetails with the future of Muskegon Lake. So one example of ongoing really great community engagement is a program run by Dr. Amanda Boudet, who's in the sociology department at GVSU, but works with us here at Annis Water Resources Institute. She's working with Future Farmers of America FFA club members at a bunch of local schools on what she calls stream teams, where the high school students are going out and monitoring water quality in streams in the region. I think this is a group from Ravenna that's out with her this past year. Other areas of community engagement that are sort of just starting or we think will happen and grow in the future. There's some big proposals and plans and visions of what the lakeshore here in Muskegon could look like just down from downtown here. Sort of the AWRI neighborhood is what I like to think of it as, and so we want to be a part of those conversations and are a part of those conversations, thinking about whether there could be maritime museums and whether there could be science displays and opportunities for engagement in some of those museum settings. We still want to continue work with our local partners, work with lake groups, watershed groups moving forward. I have a meeting this afternoon with folks from the city talking about trying to garner additional federal funds for some additional shoreline restoration activities on the sort of southeast corner of the lake, we're hoping. And some of the groups in your lower right are offering funds currently that we want to try to take advantage of to continue that history of restoration. Shifting to the education pillar, we have, again, a long history. Since AWRI was a thing almost 40 years ago, we've been using those boats to engage lifelong learners, students, adults, et cetera, in water-related educational activities. Janet Bell was a big driver of that. Maybe some of you know that over the last couple decades, and now Christine Cantonese has taken that over in the last few years. We engage somewhere around 150 classrooms each year that come out to the Institute and go on a trip on the boat, go out into the lake and out into Lake Michigan, and we teach them some of the same ideas about algae growth and that sort of thing. This year we just got our numbers together and we're at sort of that high level for the post-COVID subscribership. And most exciting, we had a classroom from Fruitport Middle School, I believe, that was out this fall, and one of those students was our 200,000th participant in this education program. Another victory that I can claim that, yay, we did it, but I didn't really do anything. So then just a little bit more about research in the time that I have remaining. One of the focal projects that sort of it was interwoven with the AOC delisting activities was long-term monitoring of Muskegon Lake. And Al Steinman started this when he started as director almost over 20 years ago, almost 25 years ago. And we want to continue that. And there's a couple reasons we want to continue that, even though we've declared victory and the lake is delisted. One of those is that these AOC designations and the impairment of beneficial uses are by definition backwards looking. We're trying to solve the problems of 1987 as we try to get off of that list. And we've done a good job of that. The EPA gave us the gold stamp and we're delisted. We solved those 1987 problems. The trouble is other problems are emerging all the time. We're learning about new issues in the environment and that sort of thing. And you've probably heard of some of these emerging contaminants, things like PFAS. Microplastics are another one that's been in the news because of some legislation at the state and federal level that folks are trying to get together to help these environments. But in 1987, we didn't know what PFAS was, or maybe the chemical engineers knew what PFAS was and put it on in all of these products. But as environmental chemists, folks thinking about the environment, we didn't know what PFAS was, nor did we think much about microplastics. So new emerging problems are always down the road, and we need to be ready to monitor those and speak to how we might solve some of those problems. Another reason to continue that monitoring is the algae weren't invited to that celebration of the delisting, right? They have a mind of their own, or they're going to respond to the changing environment in ways that we can't dictate. And so this is that figure I showed you before, where we lowered the levels of algae based on all of our long-term data below this cutoff for impaired use. If we look at our long-term data in a little bit more detail, this is another measure we do, phosphorus, which limits the growth of algae. And we look year by year, we can see it's down from 1972 for sure, but there's higher and lower levels each year, and there was some really low levels, and then it came back up. And so things are changing all the time in the environment, and we need to understand why that is and monitor those dynamics. If we look at the algae concentrations and dig into the 2000 to 2020 data and add some more recent years, we can see that the algae went down, but maybe it's starting to come back up a little bit. And so we need to understand why that's happening, and are there new restoration efforts or changes in the watershed, or maybe there's things we can't control, like climate change is causing some of these impacts, and we don't really have any local control over that. So another reason to continue monitoring. If the data and the graphs are less interesting to you, here's a picture from 2024. The blooms in Muskegon Lake were the largest and longest. They lasted for months in 2024. And so we're trying to understand why was 2024 such a great year for algae and not such a great year for using the lake. To try to not be such a downer, I wanted to quick plug another project that Carl Rutz and Sean Woznicki are running. They're working in Muskegon Lake and the Muskegon River, focused on lake sturgeon restoration. So populations of lake sturgeon have been down historically. Through habitat restoration and stocking, they're trying to bring those populations back. They're trying to understand what habitat is optimal for lake sturgeon. They're doing that by mapping all the habitat in the Muskegon River and then actually using radio tags to follow. It's like a radio collar that you'd put on a mountain lion or something, but it's in the belly of the sturgeon, so they can listen for pings and follow the sturgeon around Muskegon River and understand what they're using for habitat. Moving forward on the research side and on the sort of future of West Michigan aquatic resources, our hope is that we can put a proposal together that will allow us to focus on Muskegon Lake, but other lakes like it up and down the shoreline of Lake Michigan. All these lakes form where a river enters Lake Michigan. And we'd like to form what's called the National Estuarine Research Reserve, or NER. And we've started on this process. We're in step 1 out of 6, and the website that NOAA puts up says this is a long process, and it is. So we're in step 1. Step 1 feels big to me. We got a letter from the governor that says, yeah, there should be a NER. But unfortunately, there's 5 more steps. And so we're in line waiting for this. The good news is that I think there's a lot of evidence that Muskegon and AWRI are good at long, slow, deliberate solutions to problems. The AOC listing is a great example of that. I know there are others that people may be thinking about for Muskegon, but I'm up for the challenge. I think the Institute's up for the challenge, and I hope all of you are too. I'm confident that that's true. So I'll stop there. Just say thanks, and I'm happy to answer questions if we have time for some.
There's a lot of buzz about the Windward Point Sappi property. Are you guys involved in that? What's the true story there?
This is good. I get to put on a politician hat a little bit. Actually, Melissa asked, do you chime in on a different environmental problem? And I said, well, when we're asked, we will be involved in those conversations, and we're happy to bring the best knowledge and facts to those situations as we can, but we aren't going to take a position on any of these things. And so actually, I'm not convinced that we have been involved in that a whole lot. Other folks in the region have created data from that site, made measurements, and it sounds like a complicated problem that, yeah. I'm also new, so, and I would say that in general, my philosophy on those sorts of things are, I and the Institute are happy to be involved in those conversations, but what we're going to try to bring is factual information, not opinions. The other is that my personal view on this, and I said it when I showed the logging pictures, I'm not like an environmentalist. I'm not going to pick it about trees being cut down or something like that. I'm a realist. We live in a world dominated by humans, and I recognize the importance of economic development, and I'm for that in Muskegon and the region. We want to do that in a way that can maybe not create new AOCs, but rather does it in a calculated, cautious way. And I think this is a local, small-scale example of that.
Carla? Related to the plume that you showed the picture of in 2024 for Muskegon Lake, when you're looking at that, do you notice if that is also active in other lakes across our region, or was that specific to Muskegon Lake at that particular time?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We are seeing more blooms around the world, and that's why I brought up climate change. Because it's such a broad thing, we think it's got to be kind of be that or something else that happens at that broad scale. Specifically, the bloom in 2024, we did see evidence of that in other lakes in the region. I put that map up of all of the lakes and watersheds in western Michigan. That's another reason we want to extend our reach to regularly sample a lot of those systems so we can ask questions like that. And really, you nailed it. If it happens a bunch of places, it's something that we might not be able to fix here. If it's something that's just happening here, then hey, we can dig into what the local problems are. And so we want to use those signals to understand at what scale do we need to make changes to solve our problems.
So I don't have history on this. Robert B. Annis was who?
There are 3, 4, 5 really important people in the history of Annis. I believe Annis was a businessman from Indianapolis who was interested in Lake Michigan and brought folks up. He had this club called the SciTech Club in Indianapolis, brought students up, was very interested in water resources in West Michigan, and has been a huge benefactor to the Institute. Yeah. Somebody should tell me if I'm wrong. I could be mixing him up with somebody else. I'm working on it.
Here we go.
Hi, Kevin Donovan. Thank you for being here. Nice program, and thank you for what you do. Remind us of the 43 listed areas of concern back in
87.
87. How many have been delisted?
Oh, that's a good question. If somebody wants to help me, it's on the order of low teens, 12, 13, 14 of them.
White Lake.
Yeah, White Lake is another example of that. And actually, a lot of those are Michigan sites. More than you'd expect are Michigan sites. And more in the U.S. than Canada, for what it's worth. We can't beat them in hockey necessarily. But.
While he's getting over there, let me ask one.
If we were to get an estuary designation, what does that bring us as a community and to your institution?
Good question. That's a question about the NER. It provides some dedicated staff focused on those ecosystems. It provides access to us for research funding to continue to monitor and understand changes going on in those systems. It puts us in a club, basically, which then gives us a little priority access to some benefits from the federal level.
Marcia. Yes, does the delisting in any way affect our ability to get federal grants for any future problems?
Yeah, that's a good question. There was an act passed that gave designated earmarked access to funds to clean up the AOCs. And unfortunately, but fortunately, we lose access to those. And that's part of why this NER would be so great, is that it would give us access to a new club, a good club, where we have quality aquatic ecosystems. It in some ways would substitute for those past funds that we used well and you know, delisted the AOC, but now we've lost it. What's that? The other group. Well, so the original group that we had access to was federal funding from the U.S. government that was designated for cleaning up AOCs. Now this Natural Estuarine Research Reserve, or NER, is the new thing we would like to be a part of. Yep.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think we're on to Speaker Honorarium this year, Stuart. Will be Muskegon Rotary Club's donation for supplies and materials used by our club members and youth from our Interact clubs as they take service trips to El Salvador and Honduras. And one of those are working with water quality and sewage treatment over the years. So we are working in Muskegon and outside of the country on those issues. Thank you. Birthday slide. We have Philip Dickinson, Marianne Gorman, Scott Ridovitz, Kathy Moore, Meredith Smiley, and Jay Wallace. I know some of you are here. Do we have our contingent of singers? Oh, pitch perfect. Go for it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Important, please make your $10 birthday gift donation to Caring Connection. We have cards up here. There are QR codes for it. It will also be in the rim. Please help us out. The spotlight video, Rotary in Action. It's got Dave Ramos. Michael.
So my name is David Ramos, and I've been a Rotarian for quite a few years now. I was a police officer for many years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to work in 3 different departments: Muskegon County Sheriff's Department, Muskegon Township, and Muskegon Heights. In law enforcement, you'll see on many police cars it says to serve, and that's one of the ideas and objectives. I believe that with Rotarians, it's the same principle. You know, we have it within our statement to serve. And I've always enjoyed that. I enjoy we have several companies and several employees, and I don't look at myself as a boss. First of all, I don't like titles. That's not what makes a person. And so, but I look at myself and my position as the one who serves. But now as a business owner, I have learned a lot from a lot of business owners that are very strong. And one of the things that they've almost all have said to me is, you got to be generous, you got to give. And so I think that we should bring in some more business owners who are able to give and be a part of not only this community, but the whole world. I mean, there's so many needs out there well beyond Muskegon. I love the idea that Rotary reaches out to the whole world, and that there are so many different organizations or clubs within our world. It's just amazing organization to be a part of. I couldn't do this without Mary Beth. She is the mother of my children. Yes, we are, she's a former spouse, but she gave me what no other woman has ever given me, and that is my gorgeous and beautiful daughters. She is also a big, significant part of our company in that she does a lot of the marketing, and she does it from the heart with pure sincerity. I couldn't do this without her.
Heartfelt message. Thank you, David. Trevor and Rich, come on up. We have a new member induction, Trevor Friederberg, and with sponsor Rich Houdeman.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to have Trevor on board. Here at Rotary, just real quick before we go into I was the chair for Greater Muskegon Economic Development in the last year, and had the joy of getting to help run a CEO search, and that's a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun. And part of that joy was to have Trevor here ultimately today, and being a part of this club. But I also want to thank Frank Peterson, who was also a big part of leading that search and helping bring Trevor here. So with that, I'm going to introduce you a little bit about Trevor if you haven't met him yet. But Trevor Friedenberg proudly serves as President and CEO of Greater Muskegon Economic Development, where he leads strategic efforts to strengthen Muskegon's regional economy through business retention and expansion, community revitalization, and workforce development. Under his leadership, GMED partners with local, regional, and state stakeholders to foster a more competitive and resilient economic environment for businesses and residents alike, which kind of speaks to what Dave was touching on in his piece. Prior to his role at GMED, Trevor served as the president and CEO of Forage ECI, the regional economic development organization for East Central Indiana. He had about 8 counties he had to deal with, so it was he had to do a lot of leading and trying to make 8 counties feel like they were part of something important. He did a great job there. He also worked at MEDC, and every day he still maintains touch with MEDC, and still is able to foster and leverage and lean into a lot of those relationships he had from that time there. So that's good for Muskegon. He's a Spartan. All right, go White. I'm a Laker, so I'm with Stewart today, but that's all right. I'm with Trevor too. So he earned his BS from Michigan State University, as well as MBA from Eli Broad College of Business at MSU. When Trevor ends his day with us, he heads home to his awesome family, which includes his wife Amy, Isla, who's 4, and 20-month-old Leland, named after, yes, our Michigan City. The Friedebergs have recently moved to a home in lovely Norton Shores this last October, and definitely a solid cover choice for next year's edition of North Shores Living. So, all right, let's, sir, you got to do your thing. All right.
As someone who was in the space of economic development as a business editor for 3 decades and downtown manager for 10, I am thrilled that you are joining us. And this is good for you, your organization, and especially for us as Rotary. So the relationships built here are going to be very well put together for our future. Fellow Rotarians and guests, it's a great privilege today to formally welcome a new member of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Membership in Rotary is not merely joining a club, but becoming part of a global family dedicated to making positive impact locally and internationally. Rotary International is a family of more than 1.2 million Rotarians in more than 45,000 clubs over 200 countries worldwide. Trevor Friedberg, welcome to Muskegon Rotary. You are invited to membership because you embody the spirit of service and high ethical standards Rotary upholds. Your sponsor recognized your potential and introduced you to this organization, which is committed to fostering the ideal of service above self. As a member, you now represent Rotary in the community. Membership involves duties and obligations, including regular attendance, contributions to service, and fundraising activities. You'll need to join a committee and become involved in the work of this club and of Rotary International. We promote peace, we fight disease, we provide clean water, we support education, embrace mothers and children, and grow local economies, and protect the environment. Locally, we have a long tradition of developing youth leadership, among other avenues of community service. Join us in our work and the joy of this fellowship. Do you agree to the obligations of Muskegon membership?
I do.
Trevor, I formally induct you into the Muskegon Rotary Club, and I'm providing you with a Rotary pin, wear it with pride, also a 4-way test, and a plaque. All the goody stuff. I'm going to put that in later. I'm not going to pin it on you, okay? I ask you to take the gift of Rotary and share it with others. Specifically, invite someone in of your commitment to community and ethical standards to join Muskegon Rotary Club in the next 6 months. Will you accept this assignment?
I will.
Thank you. At the end of the meeting, please be in the lobby with your sponsor to allow members to welcome you to the club. With that, I ask members and guests of Muskegon Rotary Club to please rise. Welcome the newest Rotarian of the world, Trevor Friedberg. Thank you, guys. We're going to have a couple more of these coming up next week and the beginning of January. We are at 260 members. We've got, we could be at 275 before this Rotary year is over with. There's that many people in the pipeline. So thank you for bringing that. Huh? Oh, we've been #1 for a long time. For the district, yeah. Both in age and in numbers. Age of the club, I'm 109. 109 we all are. Meredith, get me out of this.
First of all, Dave, you never say age when it's my birthday next week. So we're done having birthdays. I haven't had a birthday in a long time. Yeah, there you go. Mike, can you pull up our wheel for us today? We are down to our final 4. And so today we will say goodbye to 2 brave Rotarians. Yes. Thank you to Ron Kaler for joining our contest. And unfortunately, you are not the winner of our Paul Harris Fellow this month. One more time, Mike. Oh, Mike, you're one of my favorite people. Where are we, Mr. Alexander?
We're at the South Pierhead Lighthouse.
South Pier Head Lighthouse, not too far from where Dave lives. Again, thank you. Show up next week and see who is the big winner.
Thank you, Meredith. Again, last month was honoring and recognizing our International Rotary Foundation. Every Rotarian every year, as we look at our year-end giving, please give it due consideration. Thank you for that. If you have a brief Rotary Club announcement for the committee of a club, committee, or an event here, please come forward at this time, keeping your remarks to 2 minutes. The next Rotary Rewind meeting is scheduled for 5:15 tonight at the Vault Core Plaza building. Our meeting next week, December 11th, is the annual meeting and our last calendar meeting of the year. December 18th, there will be our Jingle Mingle holiday luncheon and not an official meeting. At the annual meeting, the Board of Directors will present the nominating committee's slate of officers and directors. Additional nominations can be made from the floor by bylaws, but those additional nominated need to be present to accept the nomination. So you can't find somebody who's not here and make them the next president. That just isn't going to work. Okay? Next week, there will be no program. Besides the voting for officers and directors, take effect July 1, those folks will, 2026. I'll have a brief overview of the first 6 months of this Rotary year and look at the second half of 2026. Any committee chair wishing to give a brief 2-minute update or announcement from your committee is welcome to address the membership at that time. For our Jingle Mingle, or Mingle Jingle, whichever one we've come up with, luncheon on December 18th, President-elect Roger will host with holiday entertainment from our symphony orchestra, and members are welcome to invite a spouse or significant other as guest of the club. All other guests will be charged the usual $20 lunch fee. So, you're it. You're it. Come on up. What you got to go over here.
Okay. I have a loud voice. Oh, but then you can't see my prop. Oh, please, will you, Vanna? Thank you. Okay, I'm Linda Juarez with the World Services Committee, and I'm putting a plug for the Honduras trip next June 21st through 28th. I was very fortunate to be in Honduras in February with the Rotary Club. Tara is here, Marcia was there, Sarah, a number of Rotarians. I went with my grandson, which I highly recommend. But I wanted to tell you a little something about Honduras. It's the second largest country in Central America. It's slightly, population-wise, it's a little bit less than Michigan, the state of Michigan. Geographically, it's about 50 square kilometers smaller, but imagine it's all mountains. So everything is mountains. But one of the day trips we did when we were not working in the school, building the school, is to this village, which is an artist community. And that's where I met Dennis Barrios, an artist, and purchased one of his pieces of work. And wonderfully delightful. You'll hear a lot about Honduras, El Salvador, and Central America, but this is my plug. If you're interested, talk to one of us who were there with their families, and welcome. Dennis Barrios.
Let me see if I can remember our numbers. For the board, we've agreed to support at the foundation level $300 per student going as a support for us as a club. And I believe we had 12 going to El Salvador. And we expect another half dozen or so or more of the students to go to Honduras. So please avail yourself to that generosity of our foundation. We have Andrew. You're going to help me out, right? Okay, get your tickets out. Raffle time.
We're going to have our guest pick the first one.
How much?
$5.
$5. 639. Whoa, someone? 639? Oh, there it is. For $10? 549? And now for 20.
Just a quick announcement. All of you know Ed Hendrickson has been in the hospital for a very long time. He is now out of the hospital. He's at Harbor Terrace downtown here in room 111, and he can have visitors. So he is doing better.
Thank you, Nancy. Next week is the annual meeting. We'll have our elections and officers and committee chair updates. After the bell today, this holiday season, as we mingle, I will play Greensleeves again from Vince Guaraldi Trio from A Charlie Brown Christmas in honor and appreciation of our meeting crew of Mike, Kim, Jay, Kevin, along with the staff here at the Delta. Thanks for making our meetings so meaningful. Members and guests, please rise as we recite the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Let's unite for good. We are adjourned.